with Chris Harris, our nuclear expert. Again, he consults with, that's his radio name, not a real name, with the NRC Nuclear Regulatory Commission, with international atomic agencies such as KEPCO, which is the Korean version. And, of course, he's working currently right now, I think, with our part of our nuclear navy and some of our geriatric parts of our nuclear navy as well, doing some really interesting historical work. Chris, you sent me a new article that dealt with the second robot that was sent in there with 70 sieverts per hour in Unit 1 containment, enough to fry your brain in less than an hour. Well, to be honest with you, it's probably less than 5 minutes, to be honest with you. It takes a while for the frying process to. In other words, if you had 5 minutes and were taken out of there, within an hour you'll be drooling and seizuring. So this little poor little robot that was sent in there was neither waterproof nor gamma ray proof nor emissions. It was a suicidal robot mission. It would be like sending poor little R2-D2 into the hellfire of a foreign starfighter's engines. It's going to get fried. So this little robot, we'll call R2-D3 instead of D2, was sent in there to die. And it was to do it to say, yes, we are incompetent. Yes, it'll be 2 centuries before we can do anything. And by the way, just ignore it. Look the other way. Don't worry. Even if you're having deformed babies, getting cardiac arrhythmias, and getting cancer, don't worry about it. Everything is going to be just fine when you die. Because this is a eugenic globalist agency literally allowing the entire human race to go through an extinction level event. And I am enraged. Use me by, other than stupid things like, you're a hole or whatever, this or that. Guess what? I don't care about your stupid ad hominem comments. You can keep them to yourself. I'm bulletproof to those. What I want is scientific arguments to say that I don't have a solution for Fukushima, that this isn't a big problem.
Guys, and I try not to talk too much in this period because Chris is the expert. But what I'm so amazed with is the fact that this cover-up is pretty intense. But now you have a situation where basically fishing on the west coast of America, that industry is gone. The fish are gone.
Tim, here's how bad it is. We're going to have Dana Durnford back on the program. He's basically a professional diver from Newfoundland, Canada. So he's got interesting, and he's a super intelligent guy in diving. This guy knows diving and marine ecology like the back of his hand. And he's been on the West Coast for something like 30 years. And he's a professional diver. And in the intertidal region, there are no orca whales anymore. They don't sing in the oceans anymore. There's no, the starfish, the smelt run is gone in Washington State, Oregon, and British Columbia. They literally called it off. People need to understand that the rookeries where the pelicans grow usually have 10,000 eggs that are launching every year. There's less than 5% of the normal number. That's off the Baja California. What's going on now is an extinction level event. It says, and we talked about this in the first hour with Carl Gallups, and I saw the name of the star, and its name was Wormwood. In the Russian, or Belarusian, or Ukrainian, it's called Chernobyl. Does anybody know that Chernobyl is what happened? And as Albert Einstein says, using nuclear fission to warm water is a pretty insane thing to do.
Exactly.
But that's the words of Albert Einstein.
I have said that, and I didn't know Einstein said it. It's not that I'm that smart, but it is. I mean, it's just logic. Using some of the most dangerous stuff on Earth to boil water to run a steam turbine is nuts.
Okay, no, so Chris, when you heard the story about the second robot going, what's your opinion of it? I looked at this article. It's from the Shinbun News Service. Go ahead.
What it finds is that they're witnessing 7,000 REM. 7,000 REM is 70 sieverts. 7,000. Yeah. You were right. You get 600 REM in a shot, you're dead. I mean, that's basically the thumb rule. You get 600 REM. So this is 7,000 REM. How do you go in and actually mop up this mess and clean it? There's not going to be any such thing as decommissioning this plant. It can't be. It's not the right word to use. I'll say disaster abatement. Maybe that's a better term for it. But you just don't call it decommissioning because it's not. It's not a typical decommissioning. and yet everyone is going, well, we're just going to decommission this plant. No, decommissioning is not easy on a good day. This is not decommissioning on any day. So
well, the plant over here at Southern Onofre is decommissioned, but even that is unstable. Where they took two Mitsubishi Heavy Industry steam turbines, which are re-engineered with a sharp pencil to change the design, made it actually vibrate and smash the little steam turbine tubes against each other to cause leakage of the reactor core, so they ended up losing containment of the reactor core, and the superheated radioactive steam to the environment, which spiked our radiation level here 5 times normal for a week after the person hitting a few keystrokes in Yuma, Arizona, caused the nuclear reactor to go into hot shutdown. And what people didn't understand what they do by decommissioning is literally go from producing power to continue to running the turbines at a quote, maintenance pace. They can't shut these things off. And what's happening, that nuclear waste at those sites all over the country and all over the world, there's no place for an international place to put this at the bottom of a tin or zinc mine, which would be 7 miles down. So what we have is a situation that's extremely dangerous, and this situation in Fukushima, I presented a number of specific technical things which we've developed, and we've talked about this not only with Chris, but I've talked to nuclear experts and scientists myself over the past 4 years, wrote the book last year. Not one of those is even being challenged to say this is a solution. For example, I've given specific design specs for what kind of robot you should put in there. And then these fools go and put this robot in there. What I'm surprised is people not only... who's that nuclear scientist that's on Direct TV and Clear Channel all the time?
I don't know.
My mind is blank as usual.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll pull it up
when
anyway.
millions of people are listening, it's wonderful for you to have a
right.
you know, brain so and so where you freeze up. It happens to me all the time, Chris.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
Anyway, so Chris, where is this going? I mean, they're trying to give us a song and dance saying we really are really incompetent, even though they're stacking up their coins and they're like in the Las Vegas, you know, they got a lot of coins. So TEPCO's making bigger profits every quarter than ever, even though they're rearranging the deck chairs in the nuclear Titanic ship. And Northern Japanese, by the way, people should know this, 2 years ago, Brazil offered an entire territory to transfer and literally move the entire population of Japan to Brazil. And the same people in India and Kerala. And when people say, well, this isn't a problem, I say, well, how come the Japanese government has actually already agreed just within a matter of weeks to accept the actual movement of a large amount of factories and population to Brazil? That's because they're screwed, and they don't want the public to know downwind in Hawaii. We talked about this yesterday when we had callers in hour number 3 when Jonathan couldn't make it in the program, that we literally have a situation in Hawaii where they're in the tailpipe of this, and I don't see any sampling of air, food, and water. And on top of the fact, they should have stopped depleted uranium munitions testing in the Molokai Island test range. And these fools in the government think that they can ignore people like me. I'm not ignorable anymore. We have a hell of a big clout now. We have a bigger audience than most cable news network shows. And people should pay attention to the fact that I challenged them to say, can their pinhead scientists call into the program or argue with me, or email their specific reports and papers to say why they think they disagree. Like the people say there's no problem with Fukushima. They're trying to come up with the kelp studies to say that Fukushima didn't destroy the kelp along the Pacific coast. Well, how come all the smelts are gone? How come the starfish are falling apart? How come there's no orca whale babies? They died. How come the rookeries are dead? There's no new pelicans coming. How come the birds of prey along the intertidal region that Dana Durnford saw, there's not bald eagles or even crows, and there's not even insects on the beach because they're all dead. Dead. This is not open to discussion or anybody's damned opinion. You know, when you're doing an autopsy or forensic or you're diagnosing somebody as, is this person's pupils fixed and dilated and are they cold as a lobster? Do they have no pulse? Are they assuming the temperature of the surrounding land? Yeah. We have a dying world and people are pretending that they can ignore what we're saying.
You may have heard about taking silver supplements.
One of the other things is I think we, I'm going to put up another update to the book, which, by the way, is to a great extent back and forth emails and update news articles with Chris Harris and other nuclear experts. Sometime probably this summer after I get my Dr. Yu book finished. But I will be presenting a paper this fall to the Academy of Environmental Medicine on Fukushima Daiichi. And I know there's a lot of people that pretend to be experts on either the nuclear reactors, the radiation toxicology, or the oceanographic effects in the marine ecology. But I have all of the expertise in every one of those areas. And having studied this now contensively for 4 years, I think it's very obscene that I don't even get opposition or even questioning. And when I try to raise issues like even monitoring air, food, and water, or specific engineering designs to try to control it, for example, and I'm going to repeat this so people out there say, well, Deagle didn't say that first. Yes, I did, actually. And you need to listen up out there, so don't try to say that I talk too much. Number one, every single one of those plants needs to have a spider silk Kevlar tent over it. They need to convert the airborne waste to solid waste. They need to have a special seawall built so the water which is leaking out from the aquifer underneath Fukushima Daiichi is now draining to a drainage basin that they can then convert that radioactive waste to solid waste and then bring it off in double-hulled ships to tin mines maybe in God knows where, Antarctica. But there are places in the world where you can put that radioactive waste in proper solid containers. We need to have a crystalline sarcophagus with boron, because our two enemies are water, which they need to have a diversion platform above Fukushima, not an ice wall, which is the stupidest damn thing I ever heard, but a diversion project to make sure that literally aquifer, which is an underground aquifer running from the mountains above Fukushima, it gets nowhere near the place, because they have an underground river there.
Yeah, they could do that, by the way. They could do that. We need to have
cable robots with fiber optic and hydraulic systems. And if they want to put an integrated brain at some distance, they need to put it in a depleted uranium skull with a special mu metal box to block the electron flux, which, if you could see them, would look like electronic dirt devils flying around the area, and the gamma beams. And the neutron beams are so powerful that when they emerge from the ground, from the corium down 25, 50, or 60 meters, they actually emerge from the ground at night, especially at sundown. You can see the neutron beams hitting the nitrogen molecules and creating a light show like the light show at the stadium in Los Angeles, where they have the open-air stadium there. Star Wars or Las Vegas. This is not funny, people. And the problem I find is that they're absolutely don't leave all these marine bacteriologists, scientists, marine ecologists, nuclear experts otherwise. People don't want to put their career and their life on the line. Why the hell not? This is the end game. This is not like a rehearsal or late-night radio or TV entertainment. I'm not doing this because it's funny. I'm not doing this because I'm an egomaniac, because I'm not. Even though you might think because I'm driven like a manic, driven for decades and decades to know stuff that you don't know even the slightest tiny bit about, and you dare question me? How dare you out there question me without scientific validity? Who the heck do you think you are, unless you have a scientifically valid point to make, to question what I'm telling you, how serious this is? And if you have a reason to say so, have enough guts to call into the program or email me. And don't use ad hominem attacks, because it won't have any effect on me at all. I'm bulletproof to those. I've been through so much abuse, it means nothing. But I still care about you out there, even if you're an idiot, because you think you know better than me, and I can prove to you, you don't. Prove it to me you do. And when I hear experts that were trying to fluff off and say, well, the kelp forest research is not going to show anything at the University of California in Berkeley, or they're not doing any research studies with the engineer that worked as a nuclear engineer under Senator Feinstein, she's so-called spokesperson, this individual I spoke to 2.5 years ago, they're not doing anything. They're not even respond to our objections to the fact that they're not even wanting to do data gathering. The native peoples up in British Columbia had to pay private nuclear experts to test and find out the food, which is one of their primary food sources for the native peoples, is poisoning them. They're going to starve to death. Now, people think, well, this isn't going to have an effect. I'm going to say, like my ancestor Joseph and Moses, this is the start of the 7 lean years. The Shemitah has hit the fan. And we are probably within a matter of months before people realize when the economy of the world starts to hit the skids, because it's going to. Now, it's not the end of the world, because remember, they're going to bring it back, just like, waterboarding the world population and the economy. When they bring it back to make it look shiny and new, it'll be a surveillance system, it'll be a matrix, and it'll be, like they said, they want with the low interest rates, they're now talking openly about getting rid of cash. Have you heard that, Tim? Getting rid of cash means we're going to have the mark of the beast and a biometric ability to open your cards.
That's end time stuff. Hey, can I ask Chris something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, don't you agree that this is you're the nuclear expert? I mean, this is your whole life you've devoted to this. Don't you agree that this is essentially, if it runs the next 20 years without anything happening, basically a population extinction event for a good part of the human race and higher life forms?
Tim, long time ago, I called this. We all called this that this is going to be a long-term. Well, you can't call it a plant anymore. Remember. Let me just go. I just jotted down some thoughts really quickly. These are myths of Fukushima. Containment, there isn't any. Even though today they started off another probably a failed attempt at the ice walls. Cold shutdown is a myth at Fukushima. They declared it, but there is no cold shutdown there. Cooling is a myth there because you can't tell that there's actual cooling going to wherever the fuel is. Waste processing. Tim, you said it yourself. Mountains of plastic bags.
Unbelievable,
of them. That's waste processing. Decommissioning is a myth. Cleanup is a myth. It's a waste generation facility. Now, I'll buy that. I'll call it that. That's a waste generation facility. There is no containment, and emergency planning there is also a myth, as we have seen because of the faulty electrical system and everything else from the makeshift system that they do have running. So I am in agreement with your statement, Tim.
Yeah.
It's not nice. It's not good to be right sometimes.
Well, let's put it this way. If you're out there and you're one of our unfortunate listeners that have heard the doctor looking over the top of their glasses, you've got a terminal illness, cancer or some other terminal illness. Think of the people out there that are finally getting the epiphany, the knowledge, the spirit and the technical knowledge to realize that as we look over the top of our glasses at the population through this radio show, we're telling them that the world has a terminal illness. And the solution starts off, number one, with God, because if people actually did the right thing, including Americans standing up and saying, hey, where is our president? Why don't we have the United Nations and the World or a collective of the nations? Because the UN is not going to do anything there. Again, an armament of the population reduction, which is why they're tied directly to the WHO and the vaccine programs in Kenya, where they actually lace them with human chorionic gonadotropin to sterilize women. Why are they fixing Fukushima? This is even a bigger question than why did Fukushima happen. The fact that they're not fixing it is because they wanted to kill us. They wanted to kill us.
You're right. I agree. That's the real scary part.
That's even worse than the fact that they were incompetent enough to create it in the first place, is the fact there's no attempt, no real valid, I call Manhattan-style project attempt to treat it. And if people disagree with my plan, tell me a better one. Let's refine it. I don't have all the solutions, but I'm able to ask enough questions and provide enough solutions or a framework to say, let's get on with this. The fact that we're doing nothing is what I call omnicide by omission. We are actually standing on the sidelines while the biosphere in the northern hemisphere and surges to the southern hemisphere, where the human race and every living thing, as it says, Chernobyl or wormwood would destroy 1/3 of the creatures in the sea. That's happening as we speak.